My name is Rachel Bennett. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. 3 years ago, I thought I was building a life with the man I loved. I thought every late night, every sacrifice, every dollar I put into his dream was building our future. I was wrong, because the day my husband handed me divorce papers and told me to just sign them so we can both move on, he had no idea what he was really signing away. This is the story of how the man who tried to erase me from his life ended up losing everything to me instead. But to understand how it ended, you need to understand how it began. I met Daniel when I was 23. He was charming, ambitious, and full of big ideas. Back then, he was just a guy with a laptop, a notebook full of sketches, and a dream of starting his own marketing company. I believed in that dream before anyone else did. When Daniel didn't have enough credit to lease his first small office, I co-signed the lease. When he needed startup capital, I gave him almost every dollar of my savings, $11,000 I'd spent years putting aside. And because a new business needed 2 names on the founding paperwork to qualify for a small business loan, my name went on those documents too. I didn't think much of it at the time. I wasn't doing it for a title. I was doing it because I loved him, and I believed we were building something together. For the first 2 years, that's exactly what it felt like. We worked late nights side by side. We celebrated the first client, the first real contract, the first time Daniel's company turned a profit. I watched him grow from a nervous guy pitching in coffee shops into a confident founder walking into boardrooms. I was proud of him. I was proud of us. But somewhere along the way, us quietly became him. The company grew fast, faster than either of us expected. And with that growth came longer hours, bigger clients, and a new hire named Melissa, who Daniel brought on as his executive assistant. At first, I didn't think twice about it, but I wish I noticed the signs earlier. Daniel started staying late more often. Business trips became more frequent. His phone, which used to sit face up on the kitchen counter, started staying face down and locked. When I asked about it, he'd laugh it off. "It's just work stress, Rachel. Running a company isn't easy." I told myself he was right. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself a lot of things because it was easier than facing what was actually in front of me. But that's when everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening. Daniel had told me he was in Chicago for a client meeting, but when I called to say goodnight, I heard something in the background I wasn't supposed to hear. Melissa's voice, laughing, close, too close. I told myself there was an explanation. I wanted there to be an explanation. There wasn't. Over the next few weeks, the pieces I had been ignoring for months clicked into place. Hotel charges I wasn't supposed to see, a calendar invite labeled with a restaurant instead of a client name, a message notification that popped up on his laptop while he was in the shower. Daniel wasn't just distant. Daniel was living a second life. And the woman in that second life was standing right next to him in the company I had helped him build. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor that night, staring at my phone, feeling like the last 6 years of my life had just collapsed in front of me. I wasn't just losing a marriage. I was losing the version of myself who had believed so completely in someone else's dream that I forgot to build my own. I cried in a way I didn't know I still could. I asked myself the same question over and over. How did I miss this? How did I let this happen? What happened next still shocks me, because Daniel didn't come home apologetic. He didn't come home guilty. He came home with divorce papers already drawn up. "I think it's best for both of us," he said, barely looking up from his phone. "Let's keep this simple. Just sign here, here, and here, and we can both move forward." He wasn't asking. He was rushing me. He wanted this done before I had time to think, before I had time to ask a single question about the business we had built together. I almost signed it right there, just to make the pain stop. But something in me, some quiet instinct I didn't even fully understand yet, told me to wait. Instead of signing that night, I told Daniel I wanted a lawyer to look over the papers first. He didn't like that. He pushed. He reminded me how simple this could be if I just trusted him. But I had already stopped trusting him. So I called an old friend from college, a lawyer named Priya, and asked her to review everything, the divorce papers, and quietly, the original business documents from when Daniel's company was founded. What she found stopped me cold. When Daniel and I co-signed that very first business loan 6 years earlier, the paperwork hadn't just listed me as a guarantor. Because of how the loan and the initial business registration were structured, my name had been listed as a founding co-owner with equal shares. And in 6 years, Daniel had never once filed the paperwork to remove me. He had built an entire company, worth millions now, standing on documents that legally still called it ours. He didn't know. He had no idea. He was so confident, so eager to erase me from his life quickly and quietly, that he never bothered to check the one document that mattered most. I sat with that information for 3 days before I said a single word. Part of me wanted to scream it at him immediately, but Priya gave me one piece of advice I've never forgotten. Don't react, prepare. So instead of confronting Daniel, I did something he never expected. I smiled. I agreed the divorce should move forward quickly. I told him I just needed a little time to get my paperwork together, which was true, just not in the way he thought. While Daniel spent his nights with Melissa, celebrating what he thought was his clean escape, I spent mine with Priya, quietly building an airtight case for exactly what I legally owned. I wasn't trying to destroy him. I told myself that, over and over. I just refused to disappear quietly from something I had helped create. Priya and I worked for weeks, gathering every original document, the loan agreements, the incorporation papers, the bank records showing my $11,000 had funded the company's very first office lease. We confirmed, with certainty, that I held equal ownership rights that had never been legally transferred, adjusted, or signed away. At the same time, Priya quietly reached out to 2 of the company's board members, professional acquaintances she trusted, to inform them, discreetly, that a major ownership discrepancy was about to surface, along with a serious conflict of interest concern involving Daniel and an employee he directly supervised. The board scheduled an emergency shareholder meeting. Daniel had no idea it was coming. He was too busy finalizing our divorce, confident he was walking away clean, confident this chapter of his life was closing exactly the way he wanted. He had no idea I would be sitting in that boardroom before he even knew a meeting had been called. The morning of the board meeting, Daniel walked in expecting a routine quarterly update. Instead, he found me sitting at the table, Priya beside me, a folder of original documents in front of us both. I watched the color drain from his face as Priya laid it out, point by point, in front of the entire board. The original ownership structure, my untouched 50% stake, and the very real conflict of interest surrounding his relationship with an employee under his direct supervision. "This is a mistake," Daniel said, his voice shaking. This can't be right." But it was right. Every signature, every date, every filing confirmed it. For the first time in 6 years, Daniel wasn't the one controlling the room. I finally spoke, calm and steady, the words I had been holding on to for weeks. "You rushed me to sign papers so you could move on quickly and quietly. I just wanted you to see this before you did." The board didn't hesitate long. Given the ownership records and the conflict of interest violation, they voted to remove Daniel as CEO, pending a full internal review, and formally recognized my equal ownership of the company. Within a month, everything Daniel had rushed to escape from caught up to him completely. He lost his position as CEO, his relationship with Melissa, which he had risked everything to protect, fell apart under the pressure and public scrutiny that followed. Word spread quickly in our industry, and several clients quietly distanced themselves from the company amid the controversy. The divorce still went through. That part I didn't fight. I didn't want to stay married to a man who had tried to erase me. But I made sure I walked away with exactly what was legally, rightfully mine. Daniel walked away with far less than he ever imagined, not because I set out to destroy him, but because he never stopped to consider that the woman he was rushing out the door had built the foundation he was standing on. He lost the company, he lost the relationship he risked it for, and in the end, he lost the one thing he never valued while he had it, me. Today, I run that company, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because I finally understand something I wish I had known years earlier. I spent so long pouring myself into someone else's dream that I forgot I was allowed to have one of my own. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Never sign anything in your life, a lease, a marriage, a future, without understanding exactly what you're agreeing to and exactly what you're worth within it. Daniel thought rushing me out the door meant winning. He never imagined that the woman he underestimated would end up holding everything he built. Sometimes the people who try hardest to make you disappear quietly are the ones who taught you, without meaning to, exactly how strong you really are.